accountability, there was again another challenge. Now, some commentators were of the view that the Me Too movement in case of India did not include voices from the margins. Those who are at the periphery, women who are at the periphery. The women, for example, Dalit women, Kashmiri women, transgender women, their voices were not part of the larger Me Too movement. If you want to make this movement an all-encompassing movement, then the shift has to happen. At present, in the last 1 year, the Me Too movement got more attention from the privileged voices. They were heard the loudest. But ordinary women, thousands of women who face sexual harassment daily, their lives could not change, their voices were not heard. So these women, these thousands of women, they did not have any means, or they could not access different kind of legal medium, or they could not have access to the media. It was mostly the privileged women who were able to get benefited from this particular movement. So this was again another challenge. Apart from that, the Me Too movement faced another issue as well. Now, the movement highlights cases of sexual harassment, but also you have to ensure that this movement should not lead to a scenario in which men start walling themselves. They start avoiding women. They create such circumstances that men and women get segregated. Men might fear that there are chances of crossing the line, and to prevent these kind of circumstances, why not segregate? So in such a scenario, again there can be other problems. For example, in corporate sector, work can get impacted. If men and women are not working on a project together, the after work social events, it can be impacted. Man-woman mentor-mentee relationships, it can get impacted. There can be circumstances, situations in which man will be the mentor and the woman might be subordinate. She is the mentee. She's learning from this person. But there can be fear of false allegations or raised eyebrows. These kind of circumstances can be there, and men might prefer not to act as a mentor to a particular female employee or other female employees. So those kind of relationship can also get impacted in the process. So from the Me Too movement, the takeaway should not be that men and women cannot work together. This should not be the final takeaway. Men and women should work together. The main takeaway should be you have to create an environment which should not have this toxicity. We should create an environment in which women are not sexually harassed. You should create an environment in which women feel safe to work with their male counterparts. So that should be the takeaway. Walling men from women, that should not be the final objective of the Me Too movement. So these are some of the challenges faced by the Me Too movement. So till now, we understood what is the Me Too movement, how it originated in case of India, the different waves of Me Too movement, and what are some of the challenges faced by the Me Too movement. Now the final thing, how do we envisage the Me Too movement? Or what is the future of the movement? Or what steps we can take so that this Me Too movement can lead to some tangible changes, can lead to some changes in the culture, work culture, culture of different organizations, the culture of the society as such. So what are some of the steps that needs to be taken? So first thing, the Me Too movement highlighted some individual cases. This person is a perpetrator of sexual harassment. He is a wolf. Now, these individual cases were highlighted. Next step is we should create a situation in which these kind of individual cases do not thrive. We should create such culture where these kind of individual cases are not perpetrated. So we have to move from individual cases to large systemic action. The Me Too movement created awareness. ensured that women are coming together. They're raising their voices. It is creating a community of survivors and also a community of people who are raising the voice or who are supporting these survivors. So there was collective strength in this movement. Now, this collective strength and the awareness that has been obtained should be converted into some sort of substantive action. Apart from that, it is also very important to engage the companies, the workplaces at different level. At different levels in the organizations, we have to create systems, we have to create cultures so that these kind of cases are not perpetuated. In fact, in the last 1 year, this Metoo movement has started in 2017, and from 2017 to 2018, in that period as well, we saw some positive changes. Different reports, for example, NAVEX Global report, it pointed out that there has been increase in reporting of these cases. More and more number of cases have come to the light. People are now reporting it. So it found that there has been an increase in reporting of ethics and compliance incidents in 2017 across thousands of companies of different size. 44% of these reports were substantiated. This number was 10% more than the number last year. So organizations do have a role to play, and Me Too movement should engage with organizations at different levels. Apart from this, another major step that can be taken is the ideas related to sex, power, courtship, consent, all these things should be imparted to people at a younger age. It should be ingrained within individuals. So all these things should be taught to people at a younger age. Apart from this, one of the reason why these kind of crimes are perpetuated, they keep on continuing, is that some people, some women, they maintain silence. Some women might be maintaining silence because they do not have sufficient knowledge. They might not be having a support structure, but sometimes because of lack of knowledge also it is continuing. So silence and lack of knowledge needs to be tackled. Apart from that, sometimes ignorance can also be the reason. Ignorance, lack of knowledge, you can include it together. Ignorance about the procedures involved. Ignorance about the grievance redressal mechanisms involved. That might also be the reason why women are not raising their voices. So we need to target that. We need to tackle that. Apart from this, we also need to understand the different warning signs. This warning signs, if people have an understanding of these warning signs, this can also play a very important role in addressing and preventing these crimes. A particular person, he's a perpetrator. Now he might be exhibiting some signs. If the others who are in the same team or who are part of the same organization, they can identify these warning signs, this person can be tackled. So teaching, training related to this also needs to be provided. Apart from these three things, we also need to promote more debates, discussions, more meaningful, nuanced discussions about due process. Now, what do we mean by this? Now, in the present environment, the present climate, if there is accusation, if there is any allegation against a person, he is deemed to be convicted. So, there is a difference between accusation and conviction. But sometimes that boundary gets quite blurred because of the media trials. So, we need to promote these kind of discussions. A person who has been accused might not have committed the crime. He should not be subjected to all the media trials as well, or there should be a limit to that. So we need to promote these kind of discussions. We need to find out what sort of treatment should be provided to someone who has been accused of sexual misconduct. What kind of treatment should be provided to him which can be considered to be fair? What should be the range of punishments given to someone who has been found to be guilty of sexual misconduct? Again, here there can be different kind of punishments. Whether that person's career should be completely put into jeopardy, or whether apology or some other kind of punishment can be provided to him. So these things also needs to be discussed We should have more discussions, more debates related to it. Apart from that, we need to promote women leadership. Different reports, different research, they find out that if an organization is led by a woman, then that organization tends to be more participative, it tends to be more inclusive, more collaborative, more profitable. So we need to understand these things, and we need to promote more women leadership. Apart from that, we need to find out what is the impact of women leaders on media and culture. If we have more women leaders, how it changes the culture, why the culture of the organization is changing, what are the key points here. So these things also needs to be studied, needs to be found out. Apart from that, we need to shift from me to you can't. Now, what do you mean by this? Me too to you can't. Me too means a person has been subjected to sexual harassment, that person is reporting. I was also a victim of sexual harassment. Me too. You can't means the culture is such, the systems are such that you cannot harass me. Me too. I have also been sexually harassed, molested by this person. You can't. Systems are such that you cannot sexually harass me. That means we are addressing the systems that have enabled workplace sexual abuse for a very, very long period of time. So you are now changing the system. Paradigm shift in the system has taken place. Victims start calling out the harassers in real time, not after 20 years, 30 years after the crime has been committed. So we are trying to create a different world. Me Too is envisaging creation of a new world, and in this world, different institutions will have different roles. Law will have specific role. We need to find that out. Culture, people, conversations, they will have a specific role. Law, I've told this repeatedly, law has a role when it comes to social change. Law can bring about social change, but again, there are different kind of limitations. We have different laws, but many times these laws are there, but things have not changed. Just the recent Sabrimala judgment, it says women can enter into the temples, but there are devotees who are not allowing women to enter into temples. The temple board was against women's entry into temple. So law has some specific role. We need to identify that specific role, but only law might not be effective. The culture, the people, the conversations, they are also important. The debates, discussions, they are also important. They bring about a change in the ideas, the value systems. Also, the debate has been primarily in the cyberspace. It has been in the social media. It has been in the online domain. It also needs to be taken to other venues, especially the offline venues. Which are these offline venues? Courts, parliaments, panel discussions, HR practices, schools. Here we need to move this movement to. Me Too movement should shift here. Courts, again, laws, parliament, also laws, panel discussions. It creates different kind of ideas, germinates. Different ideas are germinated from these panel discussions. HR practices needs to change. More protection for women. Apart from that, schools, it is the schools where young minds can be ingrained with the ideas of sex, consent, etc. So this is how a new world can be created, and in this new world, different institutions will have different roles to play. So these are the different steps that needs to be taken up, which can complement the Me Too movement, or which can take the Me Too movement to the next step. Now, apart from Me Too movement, another movement was also in the news, the Times of movement. It might not have been in the news quite frequent in case of India, but it was quite prominently there in US. Now, what exactly is the Times of movement? That we need to know. Can be important from prelims perspective, or can be important from your mains perspective as well. There can be a question whether India needs a Times of movement, or whether Times of movement is complementary to Me Too movement. So we need to understand what exactly is this Times Up movement. The first thing, Times of movement, who started this movement? Times of movement was started by a group of 300 women from Hollywood. So primarily people from Hollywood, women from Hollywood, they are starting the movement, and it included some of the high profile actors, leaders. For example, Natalie Portman, uh, Raises with a Spoon. Now, what they are trying to do here? What is the underlying principle behind Times Up movement? Now, according to Times Up movement, or Times Up movement is acknowledging the fact that every human being, every individual deserves the right to earn a living. Every human being deserves the right to take care of themselves, take care of their families, and every human being should be free from harassments, should be free from sexual assault and discrimination. So Time's Up movement talks about sexual assault, but it talks about other issues as well. For example, it is talking about your right to earn your living. It talks about your right to take care of yourself and your family members. So it is talking about work related issues, issues related to workplace, and one of them is sexual harassment. Now, the focus areas of Time's Up movement are workplace equity. It talks about equal economic opportunities for women and for people of color. Not just focusing on white women. It is talking about women of color, people of color. Sexual harassment, it wants to combat sexual harassment and assault. And one more thing has to be noted here, that Times Up movement is more solution-based movement. It is more action-based movement. So it is something which is the next step to Metoo movement. Metoo movement was primarily a campaign against sexual violence. Time's Up talks about it, and it is more action oriented, it is more solution based. And it is talking about broader issues, different workplace issues. So Metoo movement was campaign around sexual assault. Time's Up is more than that. Now the next thing here, what is the reason or what is the rationale behind the Time's Up movement? Now, Time's Up movement believes that power imbalances are the reason behind harassment, or they are at the root of the harassment behavior. Just look at the Metoo movement. Now, take the different cases. For example, the case of the former Union Cabinet Minister. Now, he was the editor of a newspaper. The allegations are there that he harassed different journalists who were working under him. Take the case of producers. Producers, they have sexually harassed different actors who were new to the field. Many veteran actors, they have harassed actors who were new to the field. So there is always this power imbalance. The editor will have more power than the journalists. The producer directors will have more power than the newcomers. The veteran actors will have more power as compared to the new actors. So there is always this power imbalance. So power imbalance is at the root of the harassment behavior. The harasser is more powerful, can harass someone and can go scot-free. Because he is powerful, not much can be done against him. So, Time's Up movement, it says that if you want to eradicate sexual harassment, you first need to solve this inequality that exists. If inequality is resolved, sexual harassment can be taken care of. This sexual harassment is nothing but a symptom of larger systemic inequality, systemic pattern of exclusion for women, for people of color, and there is lack of equilibrium in power distribution in our businesses. If power is equitably distributed, if there is equity, sexual harassment will not be there. So this is what Time's Up movement talks about. This is the reason why Time's Up movement has taken up certain focus areas. So this workplace inequity needs to be resolved. Now, how they want to change these things or how they want to achieve their focus areas? So they are saying they will try to influence legislation. They want to create better laws, or they will try to influence the lawmaking process. They want to introduce better policies. They want better laws for gender parity. equal pay for equal work. These kind of policies should be there. You need to create environments which you need to promote equal pay for equal work. They want to create more opportunities for women who are in the low wage industries, for women who are from color, black women, for example. They also created a Times Up Legal Defense Fund so that women are getting some sort of legal and financial support who cannot afford it. Apart from that, one thing was observed was there was a GoFundMe campaign, and it raised $21 million in just 2 months. Apart from that, awareness generation is also a key role here. Many men and male and female celebrities, they dressed themselves in black and they sported Times Up pins in the Golden Globes Awards. So solidarity with the Times Up movement. So this is how these women who are part of the Times Up movement, those who have initiated the movement, this is how they want to achieve their goals. Since we have been talking about the Metoo movement, the Times Up movement, it also makes sense for us to discuss about the feminist movements. For us to understand a little bit about feminism, the different waves of feminism, and also look at feminism from the Indian context. So what we will do is we'll try to understand feminism, what exactly feminist movement is all about, what are the different waves of feminism, and what are the different types of feminism, and then we will try to understand feminism from the Indian context. So the first thing, when we say feminism, feminist movement, what do we imply by this? What do you understand by it? So the first thing, what is feminist movement? Now, feminist movement refers to a lot of things together. It refers to multiple type of movements. Feminist movement refers to political movement, refers to cultural movement, economic movement. All these three things are within the broader framework of feminist movement. So basically, feminist movement tries to bring about changes along all these lines. But the main aim of feminist movement is establishing equal rights and providing legal protection for women. So it is a political movement, economic movement, cultural movement, all these three things together to ensure equal rights for men and women should have equal rights. Feminist movements also involves different sociological theories, political theories. It involves different kind of philosophies related to issues of gender difference. So it's a movement. It also includes theories, philosophies. All these things are put together. So this is what is the meaning of feminist movement. But here again, feminism did not happen in one go. There are different phases to feminism. If you look at feminism, feminist movement in the West, it is divided into different phases. These phases are referred to as waves. So what we will try to understand is we look at these waves. What was the first wave of feminism? What was the second wave of feminism? What is the third wave of feminism? And we'll try to understand what were the major issues that were taken up during these phases and what were some of the impacts. Hello friends, welcome to Baiju's classes. In the previous session, we tried to understand feminism. We looked at feminism from an international perspective. So, how feminism has emerged over a period of time. We understood the different waves of feminism, first wave, second wave, third wave. Also, we tried to understand different types of feminism. In today's session, we are going to focus on the feminist movement within India. Now, this topic is relevant and this topic is very important from General Studies 1 as well as General Studies Paper 2 perspective. In GS 1, there is one section, role of women and women organization. So from this part, you can get questions. Apart from that, in General Studies Paper 2 also, we can get some general questions. Vulnerable sections, it is part of the syllabus, women fall under that. Feminist movements have played a very important role in uplifting the position of women in the society. So that way also it is important. Now, what we will try to understand in this session. So we will try to understand the origin of feminist movement in India and how it has evolved over a period of time, how it has changed over a period of time. So that is what we are going to analyze. But one thing I would like to make it clear before the start of the session. Now, when it comes to feminist movement in India, feminism, it has become a potent force. The visibility of feminist knowledge, struggles, its legitimacy, all these things have become quite significant over a period of time. So, feminist forces, feminist struggles, their knowledge, it is considered important. But at the same time, different kind of contradictions have also been observed. So, different kind of internal contestations, conflicts, charges are also observed. Now, what do I mean by this is, feminists, they do not consist of one monolithic identity. Among feminists, also you will find different kind of internal conflicts. So, all these things we will try to understand. Apart from understanding how feminist movement has grown over a period of time, we will also try to look at all these internal internal conflicts, charges among feminists. There are a lot of disagreements, divides among feminist voices. Some feminists, for example, the feminist movement in India can also be divided as per generation. The older feminists might have a particular perspective. The younger feminists, they might have a particular perspective. Again, those feminists who belong to the minority communities, they might have a different perspective. So all these things have over a period of time emerged, and we will also look at these angles. Now, one more thing, feminists in case of India, sometimes they are also criticized. Sometimes there is a backlash from the patriarchal forces. Feminists, they have been trying to solve different kind of issues. They have been trying to address different kind of issues that women face. But sometimes whenever they fail, again the patriarchal forces will criticize them. That see, you cannot solve the problem. Maybe we are in a better position to solve the issue. So those kind of backlash also feminists have faced over a period of time. Apart from that, feminists also face the threat of co-option. So different external agents, the state, the market, at different points of time, they will also threaten co-option. So feminism in India, if you look at it, the present status is this. Their voices, they have become stronger, they're considered more legitimate, their knowledge, their struggles, they have got legitimacy. But at the same time, there are some inherent contradictions, there is disputes among feminists, there are different opinions, differing views, there are threats from the patriarchal forces, there is also threat from different external agents. Now, what we will do is we will try to analyze feminist movement in India. Now, when we were looking at feminism world over, we had divided it into different phases: first wave, second wave, third wave. That way also we can look at feminism in India. Or the other way is decade wise. In 40s this happened, in 50s this happened, 60s this happened. So that way also it can be analyzed. But one thing you should keep in mind, that whenever we are dividing the entire time period into smaller time periods and analyzing things, sometimes there is a danger that we might go for overgeneralization. For example, 50s to 80s, let's say we consider it as one phase and we say that the feminist movement was characterized by this. So, in such a scenario, what happens? We might be overgeneralizing. Some particular events we might miss out on. So, we are just creating a single story for the entire duration. So, this thing is referred to as the dangers of a single story. So, some important events we might miss out on if you go for generalization. So, this thing also we can keep in mind. And more or less, we will go with the same thing. We will try to analyze it decade by decade, how it originated and how feminist movement has evolved in different decades. Now, what is the first point or what is the origin of feminist movement in India? Now, generally it is said that the reform movements that we had in the society, the anti-colonial movements as well as the socio-religious reform movements, these movements are the point of origin of feminist movement in India. Now, we all know from our learnings from history some of these movements, Arya Samaj, Brahmo Samaj. So these movements, these reform movements, they are the point, they are the origin of feminist movement in India. Now, what have been the contribution of these movements? What did they try to do? Now, these feminist movements, they laid the foundation for feminist politics in India. They are the one who are raising issues related to women rights. Just think about the things that they had taken up at that point of time. What kind of rights women have? For example, widows should have the right to remarriage. So those kind of things were taken up by them. Apart from that, they played a very significant role in improving women's education status. Women traditionally had been denied access to education. So this is something which they are trying to promote, all these social religious movements. Apart from that, they're also trying to improve women's employability. And gradually, political participation of women is also increasing. Later on, if you see, with Mahatma Gandhi coming into play, so gradually participation of women in politics also increased. So women's rights, education, employability, political participation, all these things are increasing, as a result of which it is leading to development and modernization of women. So this is the major contribution of the social religious reform movements, or this is a major contribution of the first phase of feminism in case of India. But one thing has to be noted here, that despite all these changes that are taking place, the primary affiliation of women, it was assumed that the primary affiliation of women is towards her family, towards the culture, towards the purity of nation. So you are promoting women education, but again, there will be people who are promoting women education. They also did not have this in mind that women should get educated for themselves. But the idea was women should get educated so that they can become better wives or better mothers. So the primary affiliation of women is towards the nation, towards the culture. That is what was assumed at this point of time. Apart from this, it has been observed that some feminists, they have constructed a particular idea of a particular notion of Indian womanhood. This was constructed during colonial times, and it has continued even after the Britishers left India, even after our independence. What do we mean by this notion of Indian womanhood? Bharate Nari. Generally, this is also used nowadays as well, that Bharate Nari should behave in this particular manner. Now, what could have been the reason why this particular notion was constructed and why it continued? Now, at that point of time, this particular thing might have been a mechanism by which you are rejecting the Western ideas. So maybe it is this particular model constructed to oppose the Western notions. So it basically is trying to reinforce that anti-colonial mindset. It is trying to reinforce anti-Western mindset. That is something which has continued. Now, what is the issue with that? Now, whenever you create these kind of models, it can lead to curtailing of some rights that women as human beings should enjoy. If you say that Bharatiya Nari should behave like this, maybe it can lead to restricted mobility for the women. Bharatiya Nari should behave in this one manner. She should not go outside. She should focus only on her family. Her husband, her immediate family, they should be her primary concerns. So sometimes it can lead to decrease freedom for the women, restriction on the part of women. So this has been one of the major limitations of this particular phase of feminist movement. The idea of Indian womanhood, the creation of this notion of Indian womanhood. The idea that women have their primary affiliation for the family, for the nation, for the culture. And it has been reinforced as a measure to oppose colonialism, as a measure to oppose westernization. Now, this is the origin of feminist movement in case of India. Now, the next most important phase in feminist movement in case of India, the period of 1970s and 1980s. The decade 1970s, it is considered to be the point of origin for post-independence Indian women movement. So till now, what we are discussing, the point of origin was before independence. The point of origin was the period of social religious reform movements. After independence, the point of origin of Indian women movement is 1970s. So what is happening in 1970s? In 1970s, a lot of autonomous women groups, feminist groups are coming into being. Now, what do we mean by autonomous feminist groups? Now, these are the groups which are autonomous from political parties, political entities. They're also maintaining their autonomy from different funding agencies. So they are basically autonomous in nature. And who are the ones who are part of these feminist groups? Who are the ones who are leading these feminist groups? It is generally the women who are educated, who are from the middle class, who are urban. They are middle class women. I'm not saying they are the elite women, they are the middle class women. So, educated, middle class, urban women, they are the ones who are forming these groups and they are the ones who are leading these groups. Now, who are their constituencies? The autonomous women feminist groups are working among certain section of women. Who are these women among whom they are working? So generally they are working for poor women who are at the grassroots. So they are taking up issues of poor women who are at the bottom of the society. Now, whatever issues these women face who are at the bottom, these issues, these autonomous groups, they are taking up and they are addressing it to the nation state. So they're asking the nation state, like, what have you done for them? Why are you not taking up their issues? Why are you not trying to do something about it? So they're addressing the nation state and they are taking the issues of poor. Now, in 1970s, these autonomous women groups that are emerging, they are playing a very important role. They are shifting the focus of feminist movement. Previously, the focus was something, now gradually the focus is shifting. For example, previously the focus was more left oriented. The focus was more around material inequality. Women are poorer as compared to their male counterparts. And since women are poorer than as compared to their male counterparts, what happens is there is an element of exploitation. They will be subjugated and it can lead to exploitation. This continues even now, but previously this was the only focus. But this autonomous women groups, they are gradually shifting the focus from this aspect of material inequality to some other aspects. They're shifting it to some strategic gender interests. For example, now they're talking about the issue of gender violence, which had not been the focus area in the past. So the issues like gender violence, they are now becoming more important. For example, the violence that women face within the household, the violence they face in the public domain. So those kind of things are also being taken up, dowry harassment and all these things. Another very interesting feature of the feminist movements during this period was the public nature of protests and radicalism. Women used to come to the streets. So public nature of protest action was observed here. Radicalism is also observed here. In fact, in 2012, if you remember, there was this unfortunate incident in Delhi, the Jyoti Singh gang rape incident, Nirbhaya rape case that it was referred to at that point of time. Now, at that point of time also, after this incident took place, a lot of people, women, men, all of them came to the streets. There were a lot of public protests, not only in Delhi, but at different parts of the country. So when this particular protests were going on, some commentators could draw the parallels between the protest movements that happened in 70s and the protest movement that was going on in 2012. So there were a lot of similarities in 70s, the kind of protest action that used to happen then and the 2012 gang rape case. And one more thing, from our learnings of from the history, post-independence India, you would have read national emergency, about national emergency. But before national emergency, you might have seen that there were a lot of protests happening in different parts of India. There also women used to participate. So in 70s and 80s, these feminist movements that you see, they focused a lot on the way they tried to demonstrate was through protest action in public. So radicalism was quite evident there. During this period, from 1970s to 80, there was one event which also played a very important role in the way the feminist movement shaped out during this period. This particular incident that I am talking about is the 1972 Mathura rape case. Now, in Maharashtra, a tribal girl named Mathura was raped in police custody. So, two policemen had raped her. Now, who are policemen? Policemen are basically, they're part of the state machinery. So, now different questions started being raised. The questions were being raised on the patriarchal nature of the state. The state itself might be patriarchal, and that is being manifested here. Custodial rape. Policemen are raping a female in custody. So there were a lot of protests, and gradually this led to different kind of reforms. So different kind of legal reforms specifically related to violence against women. So from this point onwards, Indian feminist movement got oriented towards legal strategies. They are now asking for different kind of legal reforms that should take place so that women's condition can be improved, women can be protected from these kind of violence, women can be protected from the patriarchal nature of the state. We have to ensure that the state does not remain patriarchal. State is more egalitarian. State is more egalitarian when it comes to the gender. Now, this is about the 1970s and 80s. Now, what is happening in 90s? Again, in 90s, there was a turning point. Turning point not only for feminist movement, but for the entire economy polity. We know what happened in the 90s. What were some of the major events that happened in the 90s, beginning early 90s? From our learnings from economics as well as history, we know what was the major event that happened in early 90s. We opened up our economy. We introduced neoliberal economic reforms. And this led to massive changes in our political and social structures. So political and social effects were there. And in 90s, the feminist movement also witnessed some major changes. Two major events were witnessed by the feminist movement. First is the rise of state feminism. Second is NGOization of feminism. From the name itself, from these terms itself, you might have a rough idea what do we mean by this. State feminization and NGOization. State feminism means state is now playing a proactive role in improving the situation of women and ensuring upliftment of women. So we'll try to understand what is state feminism, what is the positive, what is the negative. Apart from that, another thing also emerged is NGOization of feminism. That means NGOs started playing a very important role in the feminist movement in India. So we'll look at both these things one by one. First thing, what is state feminism? Now, 90s onwards, we observe that state intervention is increasing in these particular areas, or state's intervention when it comes to upliftment of women or programs related to women is increasing. So different government initiated women development program we observe. For example, Mahila Samaksha program. So we observe these kind of programs being introduced. Apart from that, different institutions, mechanisms, bodies are also initiated. For example, National Commission of Women was set up in 1990. 73rd, 74th Constitutional Amendment, it also comes into being. So women are provided reservation in different local bodies. For example, women are given reservation in panchayats. So all these things is leading to increase in different kind of possibilities, opportunities for women. So now women can participate in public as well as political life, or increased avenues for women's participation in public political life is taking place. Now, you might think that this is a very good thing. So what is actually wrong in that? Government's focus is increasing. It is initiating different programs. A National Commission of Women. So if there are grievances faced by women, it can be taken up. So it's a good thing. Apart from that, women are able to participate in panchayat and other local bodies. So women say in different local matters is also increasing. Their political participation will also increase. So all these things are good. But can there be any issue here? Can there be a cause of concern here? Now, different commentators again pointed out, or other feminists, they also pointed out that state feminism has also some challenges. Some issues can be there because of state feminism. So what can be the possible issues with state feminism? State's involvement in upliftment of women. Now, see, when you are trying to implement something with the help of the state, what can be an issue? If more and more functions state takes up, that means the state is becoming more powerful. Just remember the lessons of good governance. When we refer or when we use the term good governance, that means that there are effective checks and balances. So for good governance, we have three players: the state, the market, and the civil society. So all these three players, they need to play some role, and apart from that, there should be a mechanism of checks and balances, so they will hold each other accountable. But if one entity becomes extremely powerful, good governance might not be ensured. So if state takes up all the role, we might face this challenge. Apart from that, it was also observed that when it comes to law enforcement, we did not achieve too much. So law and order was not good. So law enforcement is also very important, and that is something we are lagging behind. It was also observed that the different patriarchal norms, the different caste class norms, these things also gets reinforced through state. And state's role is increasing, that means these norms will even get reinforced in a stronger manner. Now, there are allegations at different points of time that our police forces, they are not gender sensitive. Police forces, they are part of the state. They are the ones through which state operates. Now, greater involvement of state means these agencies, they are the ones who will be providing different services. If you are having more and more schemes, who are going to implement these schemes? These agencies, the state agencies. But if these agencies themselves are not gender sensitive, if these agencies are themselves casteist, then how are the beneficiaries going to get benefited? So, greater involvement of state, which is patriarchal in nature, which is not free from caste and class norms, can reinforce the patriarchy, can reinforce caste class based divisions. One example here, Bhavari Devi case. Now, Bhavari Devi, a rural development worker in Rajasthan. Now, she had opposed child marriage in her locality. She's a rural development worker, and she got to know about a child marriage case that was going to happen. So she had raised her voice against it. But since she raised her voice against child marriage happening over there, some upper caste men, they raped her, gang raped her. So this thing was taken to the court, and the court, the lower court, it equated the men from the upper caste. And the reason they gave was because of the caste dynamics, because of the age difference, high chances that these men would not have raped her. So this is basically reinforcing the patriarchal norms. Age difference is there, so they would not have raped her. Caste difference is there, so they would not have raped her. So these kind of caste bias, these kind of patriarchal notion is being reinforced by the judiciary. Apart from that, after the Nirbhaya gang rape case, 2012, there were some changes to the Criminal Law Act. But despite all these changes, these changes were brought so that we can improve the condition of women. But despite all these changes, the position of women has not improved drastically. The law enforcement has not improved drastically. So, even if you improve the role of state, whether things will improve drastically, we are not sure. And there are some negative repercussions. These patriarchal caste class norms can get stronger, and the power of the state increases. So, this is the issue with state feminism. Now, apart from state feminism, another trend we observed in the 90s was NGOization. Now, what do we mean by NGOization? Now, in 1970s, 80s, I told you that we see emergence of different autonomous feminist groups. So different groups are forming, they're generally emerging, they're becoming a very important force. But in 90s, what happens is there's a gradual transition. These autonomous women groups, they are getting transformed into funded NGOs. So NGOs who are getting proper funding. Now, what is the reason why there is this transition from these feminist groups which are maintaining their autonomy to proper funded NGOs? They have some funding partners, from them they are getting the funding, and again they will have some mandate and they're working in particular areas. Now, it was gradually observed that to ensure sustainability, you have to go for these kind of models. Also, the work was also increasing. So expansion of work and need to sustain. These were the basic reasons why gradual transition to funded NGOs took place. Apart from that, you also observe that these NGOs, they will have full-time professionals, they will have a trained staff. And gradually, it was observed that these NGOs, they now were seen to be taking important decisions on behalf of the women movement in India. So previously it were these autonomous women groups. Now it is the NGOs who are seen as the reflection of women movement in India. Their actions were considered to be the action of the entire feminist movement. But the issue here is these NGOs might not be grassroots political organizations. They have not emerged from grassroots. For example, a particular NGO might have started in US and they would have opened up their own branches here. So it did not emerge from the grassroots in India. So now their idea of development, their model of development will be different. And they are getting the funding from their own parent agencies, which might be in US. So they might have their own agenda. So previously we had these grassroots political organizations. Now they are being replaced by organizations which might have transnational networks. So during this period, it was said that the women's movement has now become a hugely funded affair today. So on one side, you are creating sustainable institutions. You are able to cater to different kind of work. You are becoming more professional. You are having skilled manpower, trained staff. But at the same time, it has some other issues. Now, what are the challenges as a consequence of NGOization? So what are the issues faced because of NGOization of feminist movement? Now, in the 70s, autonomous groups were there. These groups, autonomous feminist groups, they maintained their independence from political parties, from different kind of other market forces. But now, this political autonomy is getting sacrificed. Different NGOs, they will have their own parent agencies, they will have their funding agencies, and they will have the transnational networks. So their political autonomy can be sacrificed. Apart from that, it was also observed that the internal culture and functioning of feminist struggle is also gradually changing. Previously, these struggles used to be mass-based. They used to emanate from the grassroots. But now it is becoming more professionalized, more bureaucratized. So the mode of engagement, the struggles, they are also gradually changing. The work cultures are also changing. So this is sometimes referred to as the neoliberal turn in development. You also observe that now the focus is on tapping the hidden potential, the hidden entrepreneurship skills among the women who are at the bottom of the society. For example, the different self-help groups that are coming up, what they are trying to do, they are trying to tap this thing only. They assume that women have some entrepreneurial skills, women who are at the bottom of the society, you need to tap it. So this is now seen as a mechanism by which the structural poverty can be taken care of. So this is a new model of development, and this is referred to as the neoliberal shift in development. So you are tapping to this microfinance institutions, they also try to do that. Apart from this neoliberal shift in development, another term is sometimes also referred to these kind of feminists or these NGOs, feminist NGOs. They're referred to sometimes as the 9 to 5 feminists. Why they are referred to as 9 to 5 feminists? Now, since it is becoming more professional, more bureaucratized, so generally they will have their own workplaces, work timings. So that is the reason this 9 to 5 feminist is the term that is used. Previously, it was more of a grassroots kind of thing, more of a political mobilization kind of thing. But now that has given way to a different kind of feminists who are 9 to 5 feminists, who are more or less like any other corporate, and who have certain specific goals just like corporates, but the goal is having some feminist agenda. So these are some of the criticism of these trend of NGOization in feminist movement that we have observed from 90s onward. Political autonomy has been sacrificed. The work cultures, internal cultures, functioning of feminist struggles, that has changed. From being mass-based struggle, it is now becoming more of a professionalized, bureaucratized mode of engagement. Neoliberal turn in development has happened. Focus is on tapping the hidden entrepreneurial capacity of women who are at the bottom of the society, and this new term 9 to 5 feminist is sometimes referred to. But these criticism that we see, there are different criticism to these particular criticism. There are some commentators who will say that why are you evaluating NGOs in comparison to the standards that we have set in the past? Why cannot NGOs be evaluated in their own terms? Previously, there was a particular standard. You are comparing NGOs with that standard and evaluating them. Why not compare NGOs or evaluate NGOs in their own terms? NGOs have definitely played a very significant role. Why are you ignoring that? NGOs have played a major role in providing employment to women who are at the lower and the middle classes. The self-help group movement, we have discussed in the past, it has been a revolution of sort for women in India. So they have some positive achievement as well. Apart from that, they have also touched different issues which had never been touched before, especially women and sexuality. Those kind of issues were never taken up before. So women have their own choice, they have their own agency, these kind of things which were never taken up in the past. So these NGOs have also taken it up. So there are different positives to NGOization of the feminist movement in India. What needs to be respected is there is great diversity. Different NGOs have taken up different roles. Some NGOs are working in this particular area related to women. Some NGOs are working in this particular area. Some are working for employment, some in skill development, some in education, some in issues related to women and sexuality. So this diversity was not there. This diversity has been brought to the society. So that is a welcome step because of NGOization in feminist movement. So this is about NGOization of feminist movement. Apart from this trend of state feminism and NGOization of feminist movement in India, another thing has also been observed in the 90s. As I told you in the beginning itself, that this feminist movement is not one monolithic entity. Within the feminist movement also, there are different contradictions, there are different conflicts. One thing that was observed in the 90s is the minority feminists, they have their own different perspective as well. Remember, 90s was also the decade in which different kind of caste and religion based cleavages, they became stronger, they became deepened. In 90s, Hindu nationalism, it burst. Apart from that, caste based cleavages have also increased. In 90s, we saw different kind of communal incidents. So, since the society is also getting divided, the feminist ideology or the feminist ideas, there also we see different kind of opinions. The different minorities, they will also look at it from different perspective. So, different critiques from minority feminists is also coming into being. As society is divided, a single cohesive feminist movement cannot be there. So what we can say here is the idea that women in India, all women in India need these things, that is being questioned now. Women from this particular community might face these issues, specific issues. This needs to be addressed. A Dalit woman and a woman from the higher caste, both of them will have some different issues. A higher caste woman, she might be in a better position than a Dalit woman, but she will also have some issues. She will be subjugated as compared to her male counterparts. A Dalit woman, she will be facing issues because of her caste as well as because of her gender. So, one feminist movement or one feminist ideology for all women is not sufficient. We cannot have a single cohesive framework. There are multiple feminist ideologies within that. So, in 90s, we observe this fracturing of the question related to women. Some commentators, they say that it is not fracturing. Fracturing is rather a negative word. What you can say is, it represents an more intersectional and self-reflexive feminist politics. So feminist politics, among that, if there are divergent opinion, it is good. Not necessarily it is bad, not necessarily it has got fractured. We are more reflecting, we are not thinking in different terms, and that is something which is good, it is not bad. So this is a very interesting perspective when it comes to feminist movement. Now the next phase, the 2000s, what is happening during this period? In 2000s, in this particular decade, we observe different kind of spontaneous public protest and vigils, especially among middle class youth in urban areas. And generally they were in a response to different kind of high profile cases of violence against women, especially elite women. For example, Jessica Lal murder case. Jessica Lal was a model. She was murdered. So in response to that, you observe different kind of protests in different parts of the country among middle class youth in urban areas. So this is something which is happening now. Apart from that, we also observed different kind of campaigns with explicit feminist agendas. For example, in 2011, in India, we observed the Indian version of international slut walk marches. Now, what do we mean by these slut walk marches? In 2011, in Toronto, Canada, a police officer had said that women should dress in a particular manner. Women should not dress like sluts. That was the words of a police officer. So women should not dress like sluts. That way they can avoid getting sexually assaulted. So now what is happening? What is the statement representing? He is basically blaming the victim. He is blaming the victim for the sexual assault that she had to face. So the accused is not being questioned. The dress of the female is being questioned. The woman is at fault for dressing in a particular manner. The man who committed the sexual assault is not being blamed here. So what is happening here is victim shaming. This is also referred to as slut shaming is taking place. And this kind of attitude of police officer, of the different government agencies leads to rape culture, perpetuation of rape culture. And this is something which needs to be tackled. So against these kind of rape culture or against these kind of comments, in different parts of the world, campaigns were carried out. And these campaigns were referred to as slut walk marches. So it was a transnational movement. In India also, we saw these marches. So women, men also, they also supported women who came out, and basically they are raising their voices against the rape culture that has been promoted, against the culture in which the victim of a rape is blamed for being raped, not the man who perpetrated it. Apart from the Indian version of the slut walk marches, there was another major campaign in India in 2009, and this campaign is referred to as the Pink Chaddi campaign. Now, what is the meaning of this Pink Chaddi campaign and how it came into being? Now, in India in 2009, now some right-wing outfit, they beat up these women because they said that drinking, dancing in pubs, these are all Western culture, they're not Indian culture. And women in India, Indian women should not be doing this. So they started beating them up. And in fact, there are videos in which you can see them dragging women out of these pubs and bars. So to protest this, there was this campaign, Pink Chaddi campaign. So what happened here is this particular right-wing outfit, the leader of these right-wing outfit, to their places, women from all over India started sending their underwear. So they will have a message and they will send their pink underwear to these men from these right-wing outfits. So to register their protest that we do not support your point of view, we are against it. So, and to shame them. So that is the reason for this Pink Chaddi campaign, and it was quite in news at that point of time in 2009. Apart from these slut walk marches, Pink Chaddi campaign, there were some other campaigns as well. We'll see them. First, what we'll do is we'll try to understand what were the focus areas of feminists during this period, during 2000s. Now, women in India face different issues in the public spaces. Generally, access to public spaces is restricted. They will face different kind of sexual violence, eve teasing, these kind of things. So it becomes very difficult for them to go about in public spaces. Now, one solution is the state authorities can try to improve this. They can try to ensure safety of women in public spaces. But what these feminists are trying to do is, rather than waiting for the state authorities to ensure that these spaces will become safe for women in future, they are trying to encourage women to claim public spaces back. Women should claim spaces, public spaces for themselves, buy in for themselves. So we have waited long enough for the state authorities to ensure a clean, safe environment for us. We have to do things on our own. The state authorities are not doing it. That is what they are focusing on. So they are saying that we need to ensure unconditional freedom in the public domain. Now, you might have observed that different points of time that women might be raped in public spaces. So after these kind of events, the police official, the political leaders, they will give these kind of statements that why was she loitering in that public space? Why was she moving around alone? So what is the point here is the public space is not for her. She cannot move around on her own. She cannot go to these public spaces. That is how you are justifying things. So the feminists in 2000s, they are saying no, it is our space. If someone is raping us, they are at fault. We are not at fault. We should claim back this particular space from which we have been thrown out. So how they are going about all these things? So they are indulging in the risky behavior, because for women, moving around is also risky. They might be raped, and if they are raped, the blame is solely on them as per the different political leaders and the police forces. So they are indulging in risky behavior like loitering. So different campaigns were organized which is promoting women to come out and participate in the public spaces. For example, there was this Why Loiter campaign, Black Noise campaign, Take Back the Night in Kolkata, Pinjara Tod. We might have heard of Pinjara Tod. It is quite frequently in the news. Now, what do we mean by Pinjara Tod movement? You might have observed that in different college campuses, in PGs, there are different restrictive rules for women, but not for men. For men, they can enter the hostels, they can enter the PG at any point of time, they can leave it at any point of time. But for women, there will be a lot of restrictive rules. You have to be within the campus by this particular time period. So there will be curfew after that. Now, all these things, you are saying that you are doing it for their safety, for their security, but it also limits their freedom. It limits their opportunities. Maybe educational opportunities, it might restrict their employment opportunities, it might restrict them from participating in public spaces, it might restrict them from participating in other avenues as well. So all these things have become a pinjara, cage for women. Pinjara Tod means you have to break this. These restrictive rules should be taken care of. They should be broken. Women and men should have equal freedom. So Pinjara Tod is also one of those movements which tries to increase women's access to public spaces. PGs and all these are public spaces. Apart from that, in 2000s, the feminist movement, they are also trying to break the different kind of stigma that is associated with menstruation, which is a biological process. They also fought for their entry into Hindu temples, the Sabrimala issue we have discussed in detail, and not just Hindu temples, different other religious shrines where women's entry is restricted. They are fighting for that. Apart from that, they have also broken different kind of taboos around speaking out on rape and rape culture. The kind of culture that is there, women are blamed, the rape victims are blamed, slut shaming, victim shaming, these things happens. So these kind of things are also taken up here. So these are the focus area of feminists in the 2000s. Now, these new feminists, 2000 onwards, they have been unapologetically mobilizing around issues that are relevant to them. Women who are in colleges, women who are staying in PGs, they are restricted. They have to follow the curfew. They have to be there within a particular time frame. So they protest against it. It is relevant to them, so they are protesting against it. And they say that all these things are relevant to women across all classes. These kind of restrictions on women, the different kind of stigma that is there related to menstruation, issues that have been created because there is a taboo related to talking about rape culture. All these affect women across classes. So they have been talking about it, and they say that the issues that they are highlighting have wider implication for women throughout the society. Apart from that, the issues that they are taking up, the activities they are taking up, they are all in response to the deficiencies of the feminism that came before them. The feminist movements that were there in the past, they were not taking up all these issues. Reclaiming of public spaces, these issues were not taken up before. The new feminists who emerged in this period, so they have given a different shift to a different dimension to the feminist movement in case of India. And these new feminists have also been benefited by certain enablers. What are these enablers which have benefited them? There has been a change in technology. There has been a change in the economy. Post 90s, we had the LPG reforms. And because of this, they have got some benefits. For example, social media has played a very important role. All these campaigns that we are talking about, Pinjara Tod and all these things, social media played a very important role. Hashtag activism, it has played a very important role. So someone will start a hashtag and it will attract attention of people to that hashtag, to that particular cause. And again, accordingly, with the help of social media, people also mobilize on ground. So different kind of marches are taken out. So social media has played a very important role. And social media also plays a very important role of educating others. Men and other boys, they are also getting educated with the help of social media. Apart from that, another enabler has been the transnational links. The feminist struggle now has become a transnational in nature. So feminists in India, they will be linked with feminists in Australia, they will be linked with feminists in Africa, they will be linked with feminists in US. So that kind of link is also there. So each are getting influenced by one another's ideas. Apart from that, education and employment options have also increased. So women's say has also increased. With education, your voice also improves. With employment options also, one thing is there that with employment your independence increases, so you can also improve your voice, or you can have a larger voice, a louder voice. At the same time, since options are also increasing, challenges are also increased. Now if women are participating in the labor force, they're going out and working, so they will also face certain specific issues, sexual harassment at workplace, or whenever they're going to their workplace, in between also they might face different challenges. So because of employment, increase in employment and education options, challenges faced by women is also increasing. At the same time, their voice is also improving. Apart from that, another thing that has also been observed is the right wing. It has also emerged, and the right wing's effort to curtail these freedoms, opportunity, that has also increased. So feminist movement also is becoming stronger, since the right wing outfits, they are trying to curtail the mobilities, options, opportunities, avenues of opportunities that women have. So the feminist movement is also becoming stronger, who is trying to suppress this emergence of right wing efforts. So this has also enabled the new feminists. So these are some of the enablers of this third wave of feminism post the 2000s. But there is also a criticism to this kind of feminism. For example, one criticism is that this is restricted to the middle class, urban, metropolitan women. So it is kind of exclusionary in nature. It does not cover the issues that most women face. Though they claim, the new feminists claim that the issues that they are taking up impacts women across all classes. But some critics say that no, they do not represent the interest of women throughout all the sections of the women. Apart from this, there is another criticism that they are more influenced by the West. Women in India might have their own specific issues. We should be taking up that issues rather than getting influenced by the West. This criticism is there because, as I told you, transnational link is there now. Feminist groups across the world are connected together. So since they are connected together, they might be getting influenced by the issues that are being taken up in the West without addressing the issues that we have here. So maybe we should address our issues here, then we can think of other dimensions. So these have been the criticisms of feminist movement in 2000s. Another thing that has come up is the generational divide. There's a divide among the older feminists and the new feminists. Now, what is this generational divide? We had discussed about the Metoo movement. There we had talked about one particular, how Metoo movement emerged in case of India. Now, Raya Sarkar, a graduate student in University of California, what she did was she created a list of people in academia who have been known to be sexual harassers. Now, she published this list of sexual predators on Facebook. Now, and this particular list had some 60 prominent male academics. Now, it was a public secret. Most of the people who are in part of media, they knew about it. Now, what she tried to do was she converted this public secret into a digital archive. Now, what she is trying to do here is she is publicly naming and shaming that these are the people who are known to be sexual predators. So, this is something she had done. New feminists, newer generation of feminists. Now, in response to that, some of the older feminists, established feminists in India, in fact 12 established Indian feminists, they came out with a statement. Kafila is one blog in which they published this statement. And they say that they are deeply discomforted by these kind of methods that has been used by Raya Sarkar, publicly naming and shaming these male perpetrators. And they felt that if you are anonymously naming men and you are not giving any context, any explanation, it is basically going to delegitimize the long struggle that feminists have taken out against sexual harassment. And if this delegitimization takes place, it is going to make the task of feminists even more difficult. So they are saying that you should follow the due process of law. What you are doing is not the right process. In case there are allegations of sexual abuse against some male academics, you should follow the process. Maybe there is some internal disciplinary committee, you should take it up, or you should take it to the electoral courts. So for the older feminists, due process should be taken up. They feel that it is just and fair. But the newer feminists, they feel no, we should name and shame the perpetrator. And one thing on their side is they feel that whenever you take legal recourse, generally it is the women who is at the receiving end. The process is such that women will be at the receiving end. The police officials, they will not be gender sensitive. The way the legal proceedings takes place, it is also aimed at shaming the victim. So those who have been sexually molested, harassed, they will be at the receiving end. Then they might not get the justice. At the same time, they will be suffering through the trauma. So this is a generational divide that has been observed, and gradually this generational divide took another form. It took the form of caste divide. Now, it was observed that Raya Sarkar is Dalit, and it was her way. Now, these 12 Indian feminists who wrote in Kafila, they belonged to the upper caste, Savarna. So there was also this accusation made by this Dalit Bahujan feminists that upper caste feminists are subjugating their efforts. So, which started as the Indian Metoo movement got divided along generations, and later on it is also getting divided along castes. And these Dalit Bahujan feminists, they feel that upper caste feminists, they have a particular perspective and they are subjugating the Dalit Bahujan feminist perspective. So here also we observe in the feminist movement different kind of contestations and power relations along the lines of generation, along the lines of caste class hierarchies. So from 2000 onward, this has been the dynamic. So we understood how it originated, feminist movement in case of India, anti-colonial social religious reform movements. So 1970s, what happened? We observed it is a point of origin of post-independence Indian women's movement. Autonomous women groups played a very important role in 70s, 80s. In 90s, these autonomous women groups are being replaced by NGOs. NGOization of feminist movement is taking place. State feminism is also becoming very important here. Apart from that, minority feminists, their perspective, they are also becoming significant. Minority feminists like Dalit feminists, women from minority communities, they are forming their own groups, they are forming their own platform. One example here is Dalit women. They have created their own platform, National Federation for Dalit Women. So that is the platform where they discuss issues specific to Dalit women. 2000 onward, again, there is some change. Public protest and all these things are changing. Newer feminists, they are taking up different issues which were not taken up in the past. We have also observed these different internal conflicts, contestations among feminists. So feminism in case of India is not one monolithic ideology. So legitimacy, potency, visibility of feminist knowledge, feminist struggles has improved, but at the same time, the internal conflicts, contests, all these things have also increased. Divides, disagreements also exist among feminists. Positive, what are the positive roles that have been played by feminist struggle at different points of time? Keep that in mind. So this is about the feminist movement in case of India, right from the colonial period, post-independence period, and till now. Club it with our understanding of feminism in the international context. First wave, second wave, third wave. So both these chapters are important, and especially since this Metoo movement was there in the news, has been in the news for the last 1-2 years, this is a very, very relevant topic. So this is about feminist movement in India. Thank you.